to inform almost anybody the kind of proposals that we're looking for.
But even the Paul Ryan plan on Medicare doesn't really take effect for years down the road. You want something more immediate?
I think the debt crisis that we face requires us to make serious decisions, and it requires us to make those decisions now. Thank you all.
So basically, I'm live here on the video, and I'm sorry that Mr. Boner didn't get on there, but I'm going to just recap everything right now. That, look, the Republican side after the election, and the talk was that they were going to cut this spending, this debt crisis that we have, and that he was willing to go up on the tax revenue side, and he was compromising. Then that was in the beginning phases. And then 3 weeks later, the White House comes back and says, listen, I want to do $1.6 trillion in tax increases. I want to also spend $50 billion more in spending. And there's a lot of other stuff in there that makes it very, very ridiculous. The parties are at a stalemate. The Democrat side of things are totally not reality. They're really not, folks. And the thing about it is, you can see here the Dow is only down 23. We've had this great rally about something good is going to happen. The broader markets, as we can see right now on an intraday level, you're right at the 13,000 point mark. And the thing about it is that just, and here's the Dow here on a 60-minute chart. These were the highs the other day. These were the lows right here. Here is the S&P up here at 1413, trying to work itself up throughout this. You know, it's the last day of the month. Today's date happens to be 11/30/2012. That's the S&P 500. Here's where the lows were back on 11/16 when we said it was coming to 1350 and being long up here, that we were deeply oversold. You all know that because it's all on the website. Here, this NASDAQ 100, for the NASDAQ 100, this is where they were deeply oversold and have rallied during November and December, of the two best months of the year for rallies to happen. We were very oversold at the time. When right after the election, they decided to sell these markets down in the corrective mode that they did. Now, from the oversold, you come all the way back up. You can see back over here what the dates were on the 60-minute. This is the NASDAQ 100. NASDAQ Composite back above the 3,000. They sold it down. It was deeply oversold on the daily and the weekly on the pullbacks, and we rallied right back up here to these major tops. These are called relief rallies. Now, whether the White House can do the right thing, it doesn't sound like it, according to the speeches. The proposals are ridiculous. The thing about it is that there's a certain amount of time, and both people need to be fair about it. Look, they pledged that they were going to take the painful process needed about the deficit reduction. And what that meant was the entitlements needed to be cut. Part of their proposal was, well, let's give another 99 weeks of unemployment. That's the wrong message. We got to get people out there back to work. We have to grow the economy the right way. And the recipes that are being talked about are totally different. They weren't even in reality from a few weeks ago to current. What I will tell people in this financial world that we live in, based on government's monetary policy and everything else, is that the recipe is not negotiated for the better well-being of pro-growth. You've got to take the painful entitlements that have been given out, and they've got to be stripped as part of this spending thing. They want to add 50 more billion. That was never in the talks. The only thing that was ever in the talks was reducing the deficit, not adding spending. So, listen, what I'm trying to tell people is it's very, 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 very what? Lopsided. And we don't understand why these educated people would do what they did. All I can say is, listen, the fiscal cliff is here. The oversold rally has happened. The markets were pent up to try to make higher highs going into closing year end. That can't happen without the right recipe between Republican and Democrat. Basically, here's what I'm going to say on this tape. The Republicans need to use their leverage. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I only care about what is best for people investing, trading, making markets, and things of this nature. In order to pull the bluff, the Republican Party needs to understand that Obama can't start January out going into a recession. And I mean it. So, what do I mean by that? They need to call the bluff. They need to call the bluff. They need to get these Democrats. Listen, look, extending all of these entitlements, that's not deficit reduction. That's not cutting the spending. That's what was agreed upon. Or that's what was in the election. But you're not hearing that now, and you're hearing the opposite. And this ridiculous proposal that they spent 3 weeks to come back with, I find it where they were trying to hold the Republican Party strong arm. Well, why don't they call their bluff? Because I don't think Obama can start a second 4-year term in a recession like he started the first 4-year term. I don't believe that. And I don't believe he wants to go down that road because his polls are going to look miserable. And I'm going to tell the Republicans to stick to their guns. This is the NASDAQ composite rally off of the bottom on a 60-minute chart. Once again, the Dow got back up here. This was the relief rally based on headlines from day to day, from day to day, from day to day. We've got a Congress that's playing strong arm, and it's not the right way that business should be done. Another thing in 2013 is that, look, there's nothing wrong with great bull runs and great bull things, but you have to have growth and you got to make the sacrifices. The Democrats are not willing to sacrifice. They want to keep this thing. What is it going to go from? Are we going to go to $20 trillion now? Are we just going to keep adding more entitlements? They're not talking about taking away the entitlements. They're talking about adding 50 billion more and 6.6 trillion, which is higher. Mr. Bonner, Republican Party, you need to call their bluff. That's what you need to do.